What are some of the hidden realities behind running the business?
Setting up like Nigeria office, that was done from scratch by me. Being in a foreign country, especially Nigeria, and having to fire somebody and then he taking me to court, we probably would have lost a lot of market share in Nigeria. No bank loans, no nothing. The first 5 years of the business, I never paid myself. My staff run the business, so what they generate runs the business. What I generate grows the business.
Interesting. Do you mind us kicking off with giving us a 1-minute overview about your company?
Sambus Geospatial is coming out of Sambus Company Limited, and Sambus Company is 35 years old. It was started by my father, and I joined 10 years ago. So I've been running the business for 10 years now. It's a tech business, mainly data infrastructure, IT equipment. I like to synonymize it with Google. So real-time information, how you find where you're going. When you're using Uber, for instance, you want to locate a place. Google is done in such a way that everybody has access to it. So you can access Google, she can, he can. But ours is done in such a way that only the person who puts in the data can access it. So it's sensitive. So if you have customers such as telcos, oil firms who want to put their data on a map, a real-time map, this is where I come in. So yeah, this is part of what Sambus Geospatial represents. And then Sambus Company, of course, continues with the IT business and the data infrastructure. Okay, so for instance, ECG, they want to know where all their substations are. They want to know how much to populate the substations because they want to know what consumption that area needs. They need all this on a map. So they pick a map, they know, okay, this area is, for instance, Ajingano or Chado. They consume this rate every month because they watched it over 6 months on the map. And so they can tell. So when they are doing their distribution, they know how much they should distribute to a certain point. They want to have all their lines and cables on a map so that even if the customers can interface with them on the same system, a customer can take a picture and send the picture and quickly geotag it, and then they'll know this particular location has a problem. They don't need all that calling in and all that. The system can just pick it up, and whoever is responsible for that knows, I have to fix this in the next 2-3 hours. So that sort of system is what we provide. And we do that for everyone. Water, military, we're helping Nigeria a lot with insecurity. We do that for the telcos, we do that for the oil and gas companies, and a host of others.
Can you give us an overview, like the size of your organization? You know, how would you describe your staff head count, your level of formality, the size of your management team, an overview of your structure?
Okay. So as it stands, we are a team of, we're like a company of four companies in one. So we have a team in Nigeria. They're about 25, all Nigerians. They have a general manager, they have structures, different team structures, and they manage the country. In that, we also work with business partners and resellers. So this is an ecosystem that we've created to ensure that we can be everywhere. So there are people who support us in areas where we can go, or in specific areas in terms of customer niche. So for instance, you have a business partner or a reseller whose focus is, say, infrastructure or road construction. So that person, for instance, Airbus is very good with road construction. So Airbus is a partner. And Airbus and aviation, that's the area. They understand the aviation market better than anyone. They do understand the road network. So they know how to construct roads and do systems that traffic is controlled. So that's an area. In Ghana, we're about 30 as well. We have the IT unit, and then we have the local Ghana office. Same as what they do in Ghana. All of them have general managers, and then they have different divisions and how they work. Then we have the corporate one, which I am in the corporate, which supervises these teams. So the corporate is done such a way that they can penetrate below the general managers with the unit heads and ensure that the individual teams are functioning properly and not that the information that's passed through the general managers actually reaches them. So those are the corporate is. I don't know if that explains it.
Yeah, that's a decent overview.
So in total, we should be about 60 now. Yeah.
60.
But 60 all intellectuals.
60
Mostly, yeah, about 55 strong intellectuals. We are quite male dominated. So I think in a team of 60, we have 50 men.
50 men?
Yes, we do. We have only 10
men,
women.
10
and
women.
Usually the women are the administrative teams.
They are not in the technical teams.
We're trying, but hopefully we'll have more women in there. There isn't a lot of women in there.
Okay. You did mention that you've done this for 10 years,
10 years.
right?
I'm going to 10 years in May. Next year, May is, I think.
Next year, May would have been 10 years since you've done this.
Yes,
I think for me, what I'm particularly curious to learn about is how has it been like? What are some of the hidden realities behind running the business? It's hard, you know. This is a question that's difficult to open up, maybe 100%, but if you could give us a 90%, that would be good. The people will see you run the business for 10 years, they say like, oh, you're doing well, you're making a lot of money, you're running this huge organization, you know, but I'm sure it's not all joys. There's definitely some hidden realities, the hard stuff, like what makes this a hell sometimes.
Roses have thorns, they say.
Indeed.
So the glitz and the glamour,
Glitz
the
and the
high
glamour.
heel that paints at the back.
That stuff.
Yes. Well, my situation is peculiar, and I always ask people how related to it, or something closer, if not the same thing, at least something closer. So I always say I wish I would find somebody who's been in the same situation, so I can, the conversation will hit better if I'm having that conversation. But like you're asking, yes, there are tough challenges. I know my first year, for instance, I was dealing with change management because like I said, there was no transition. So I came in with new ideas, new ways of doing things. And this was an organization that was 25 years with rules, with older people, mostly older people, because everybody was older than me.
And male dominated as well.
And very male dominated. And these were people who were 58, 60, 65. So you had a lot of them walk out of the room when I entered. And the circumstances that led to me coming over were quite similar to what you were saying. Was that I had not planned to step in. I had planned that he had 2 partners. So I was going to leave it for them to handle. But I think I left because I was doing my PhD. I left and then I left in, I think, January after the funeral. April, May, there was too much talk happening down here. So I was like, okay, I need to come down. I spoke to my supervisors, I need to come down and then see what's happening, and then that's it. I've never been able to go back again.
No, don't go back. I'm always saying this on the real. Please don't go back.
Hopefully we can finish the PhD. But yeah, almost 10 years down the line, yes, we've had a lot of issues with change management. We're still, it's a work in progress. It never ends. We've done a lot of structures. That has been one of my focal agendas, to ensure that the business didn't revolve around one person, because that's how it was. When a startup starts, it's usually one person who does everything. And I realized that even in the sales region, he was the only one doing everything. So how to structure it so that some people became salespeople, some people became business development and marketing, some were technical focused, and then some were financial and other things. And to put in systems like, QuickBooks, all those processes, ERP systems, to ensure that if tomorrow I'm not there, the next person won't go through what I went through. And the information the data would be somewhere in there for the person to pick and at least have 80% to run with, if nothing at all. I mean, that's how I think.
Right, so you spoke about how you came in and there was a lot of You had to put in place structures, and it was very male-dominated. What I'm curious to learn about is how you dealt with that, you know, the male dominance coming in, being obviously a woman, and coming in, being thrown into the deep end of a male-dominated organization that was way older, and, you know, things perhaps were not as formalized as you would have loved to inherit it. So how do you deal with the, you know, the male dominance? How do you lead an organization that's so male-dominated? How did you do that? And then also with the introduction of structures, what were some of the resistance that you faced? Because that's like a new rule of an old rule, and so there'll be, so it's like two in one. How you dealt with the male dominance, how you went about leading the organization, and also the structures, like implementing it. What was the experience like? Easy, not easy? Were they receptive to it? Was there a lot of pushbacks? Like, if there were pushbacks, how did you deal with it?
Okay. I wouldn't say that I got it all right. I would just say how I did it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong, but this is what worked for me. And I didn't even know these names until like I listened to people and then they mentioned something. I'm like, oh, that's what I did. So there was one that I think I saw a quote that said, when you want to change something, you don't focus on the old, you focus on the new. That's what I did. So I focused on what I wanted to do, and that was it. Tunnel vision. So I didn't care whatever happened around me. Whether you resist, whether I didn't. I was just doing what I had to do. So tunnel vision worked for me as a person. That's why I said I don't know if it's the accurate way, but for me it worked. So if I wanted to do something, I would, of course, communicate. I'd explain the rationale behind it, and then I'll try to get buy-in. But if I didn't, I would still run with it and work with it. And then we'll troubleshoot it. If there are issues, we come back to the table and we discuss. Because I don't think there's any hard and fast rule about how to manage change. People have so many doctrines and so many ways at which it is done, but this is what worked for me. And I can't see any way it would have worked as fast as I wanted it, because what has happened in the last 10 years, I think even some of the staff are shocked when they see it, because it's gone by too fast. So for me, it was tunnel vision. And then I remember sitting in one seminar one time, and the lady was like, well, you have to continue doing and doing until they believe in you. And so I think it falls back onto the tunnel vision, because I realized that's what I did. I kept doing it till it got to a point where when I said something, people believed it, because I had proven myself over and over and over again that I could do this. So it didn't matter that I wasn't an expert in tech. It didn't matter that I was young. It didn't matter that I was a woman. What mattered was that I knew what I was doing.
I think what I'm curious to know, so you had tunnel vision on certain things that you wanted to do. For me, how did you identify those things that you did? Do you understand? You were tunnel vision on some objectives. Like, so when you came into the organization,
For instance, there were no structures. I'll give that as an example. There were no structures. And I knew no company can go on with that structure. Because I don't even know what you're doing in the office. Like, everybody comes in, they feel they are working and they leave. But if there are structures, I will know what the team unit has achieved. Even if I don't know what the single individual did. But I know what the team did. And I remember talking to 3 or 4 business owners, and they were like, yeah, you need a structure to work in any organization. And this was something the team resisted so hard, because for them, it meant that you would identify what everybody was doing. And that's what they didn't want, because everybody covered everybody. And the work was done, but maybe not to where I wanted it to be done. Maybe if they were achieving 20%, my expectations were 100%. And with the structure, I will know where our weaker points are. Not necessarily to pinpoint who's not working, but to find the weakness and to fill it. Because there are people out there who could do that work. So this was all part of what I was thinking about. So the structures were there. And they came with benefits and other things. Because you have to tie that in as well with people. Because when they have to see the value in it. So you make sure you expose some value in it, because with the structures, then we know how we remunerate people. Because without that, we don't know the gravity of your work, and we don't know how to create the roles in the hierarchy. So all that had to be explained to them.
I'm sure, there was probably some resistance, and some people, like you said, had to leave the organization.
Of course.
What was the conversations like? That sounds to me like a breakup. Someone has been working there for so long, and then you come in and you're trying to do so many new things, and they want to step away. Like, what was these conversations like? Were you having conversations with people where you had to talk to them like a new football coach would do? I need you, I don't need you. I'll let this one go, I'll let this one stay. Did you handpick some stuff to keep, or you just decided to keep everybody and some decided to go? Or like, what was that process?
I decided to keep everybody. I decided to talk to everybody and explain everything to everybody.
So you came, and then you had the changes that you made revolved around people and then structures, and then there was also some culture element, which is I'll talk under the culture bit. But supposing that these like people, structure, and then the culture issues, were dealt with, did it become easy for you from that point on?
Not necessarily. I mean, business never gets easy. I don't think it does. And like I say, in the middle of life, I see a quote or I see something and it resonates so well with me. I saw a quote by, I think, Mandela, that says, when you climb a hill, there's just another one waiting for you.
Once you're done climbing this, yeah.
And it's always like that with business. The minute you think, oh, I've arrived, I'm just like settling in, then another mountain will just pop up from somewhere. And then you have to figure out something new, because it's always, you have to find new ways, new techniques to handle that other mountain. What you've learned in the beginning can't handle that. It's just you have to keep going forward. And so if you tend to see, in the past, a lot of the cholerics were good at it, because by their nature, they're good at, running this race forever, because it's their nature. They always want a new excitement, something new. But that also comes with its challenges. I mean, that also has its ups and downs in terms of how fast you can move with the rest of the people, whether they are catching on as fast as you are. Because, of course, when you're at the top of the mountain, it's different from what you see and what the person below sees. So how to carry them along is one of the biggest issues that you continuously learn. And then business is not static. You can learn, you can have a system that works for you today, but in 2-3 years, it will be obsolete. So you can't ever sit. Like I say, you have to always keep climbing up. And the challenge is always how you get your people who have finally gotten used to a system. And then, like today, we're having an argument about some system changes. And I could really understand their frustration, because this is a system that we implemented 2 years ago. Finally, they are catching on. Everybody understands, everybody's going with it. And then we're changing some bits of it today. And you can sense the frustration.
Just when they were getting used to it, now you want to change it again.
So I'm like, okay, now we have to come back, sensitize, talk to people, buy in, and then keep it going. So it never ends.
It never ends.
Never ends. For instance, setting up like Nigeria office. That was done from scratch by me. And that was tough. So like I say, I thought Ghana, we had gotten to a certain level, we're fine, we're well and good. And then you start having issues in Nigeria, because Nigeria we were using predominantly, and that's what my father was doing, he was using business partners and resellers. But then they were giving us issues in the market, so that we needed to have a presence over there. Got in there, registered an office in a week, hired 2 people that same week, and left them with a business.
Wow.
So, like I say, and I mean, Nigeria is almost 7 years, and it literally just set a year ago. So the first 6 years, it was
chaos. Wait, when you first came in, from till now, like what's been the increase in the staff head count?
Oh, when I came in, there were about 20.
Jesus, wait, so from 20 and it's now 60. Yeah. That's like 200% increase. Nah, that's impressive for me. It's impressive, and it also makes me wonder, like, if So considering the things that you know now and where you're at now, if like you had to go back and do it all again, based on what you know now, like, would you have done the
Anything
same, like
different?
anything? What would have been different, or would have done exactly the same thing that you did, or what would have changed if you should go back in time and try and redo it again?
I think that's what they call experience.
Mm.
And you can't learn experience backwards. It's always
Forwards.
it's always. I saw a quote, so I come back to a quote I saw recently that imagine you're always doing the wrong. The goal is to stop, like reduce the amount of wrong things you're doing, not to. The goal is not to try and do things right all the time. No, the goal is you should put in your mind that everything you're doing is wrong, but you're going to reduce the amount of wrong things you're doing by learning from your mistakes. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, I wouldn't change anything. Not because I didn't make mistakes.
Really?
No, I wouldn't change anything. It's just my story.
If you have to go back, you wouldn't change anything?
Nothing. I won't change anything.
Wow.
It's my story. And I wouldn't be where I am without that story.
That experience. Really?
No, I won't change
I find it quite hard to believe that you wouldn't change anything.
Nothing. I won't change
Absolutely
one
nothing.
little, nothing. Not because it's not an error that I haven't learned from. No, that's not it. But if I had not learned from that error, I wouldn't be where you're at. Because I needed
You
that.
needed those.
I remember I was reading a book on mental toughness. It's still lying there. I think I haven't finished. And the crucible is mentioned. So some of these things are minute ones for me. Because, for instance, I think the second person I hired in Nigeria as a general manager, I went to Nigeria and I had to fire him. The plan wasn't to fire him. I was going to Nigeria for a week. I ended up spending 3 weeks over there because I had to fire him and find a general manager before I get back. And then being in a foreign country, especially Nigeria, and having to fire somebody, I am a foreigner myself. And then he taking me to court.
In Nigeria?
Yes, in Nigeria.
For firing him?
For firing him.
Wait, I wouldn't go into the lawsuit, but I would want to know more about the firing experience. Like, recruitment and retainment is a perpetual problem for small businesses.
Of course.
And the firing, like, is it not hard? Like, were you having to get rid of somebody?
Very, very hard.
How do you deal with the emotions? Like, you know,
it's very hard. For me, it's the toughest thing to do, firing somebody. I prefer the person leaves by themselves because it's hard for me to do that. But sometimes you have to do it. Because if I had not done that, we probably would have lost a lot of market share in Nigeria. And that would have hurt us even more.
Even more.
I should have done it even earlier. I delayed too long.
At what point do you get to say, no, I've had it. Like, I'm not giving this person any more chances. And how do you?
Actually, it's a long rope. I usually give the person a very long rope because that's not the approach. The approach is to try and condition the person to change or to see what we value so they would gravitate towards that. But if you keep saying it over and over and over and over again and you see the attitude not changing and then it's affecting others, that's where you draw the line. Because it's not just about affecting, especially if the person's a leadership position. If the person's a junior staff, you can get away with it. But if the person at some point gets into a position, because usually what I like to do is those people, I tend to give them higher positions because I want them to that responsibility mindset to come on. So I tend to do that. People don't understand, but I do that a lot in my leadership. The people who I see they have potential, but they are not maximizing their potential, I put them up.
You put them up.
I give them a higher position.
With the hope that they'll be able to level up.
They would see it. So if they don't, there's reason to fire them. Because then you know that you've been given the highest chance. You've been given, say, more power. If you think the position that you were, you couldn't effect anything. Here you can. So why haven't you done it? So for instance, he was a general manager. So when you come to me complaining about things that you are responsible for, then there's a problem, right? So for instance, revenue was really down. And then I meet customers and they're complaining that it's my general manager who's the problem. It's not that there's no sales lead.
There's no sales lead, but
it is my
because of the general manager does other business.
Then there's a problem because you can't pay your staff. And if you can't pay your staff, the business goes down.
What are the challenges you had then that you don't have now? Or what's the difference? Is it the same, like, is it the same running, these two organizations, 20-man team, 20-person team, and a 60-person team? Is it the same?
No, it's not. When you're 20, you're worried about competition a lot. When you're 60, competition in Ghana or even in Nigeria is the least of your worries now. Because you have stemmed your foot and people understand what you bring. And in Nigeria, what is so peculiar is they understand the culture that I bring. They understand the values that I bring. We all know how business in Nigeria can be. But somehow in my business, my staff can say, Sambus, we don't do that. And for my staff to tell a customer that in front of me tells me that they understand what we're doing, right? So, especially over there, because in Ghana, I'm here. So some of this I would hear and correct. But
them, yeah.
there that I'm not there, I literally did not go there for 2 years and the business was going on. They could pay themselves and repatriate money here. That tells you that they were doing something right.
That's a big deal.
Yes. So, and they could find systems. I remember Nigeria, there was a problem with Forex. You couldn't get Forex at some point. For 2 good years, we couldn't send money. They found a way to get it done. And to bring money to us here in Ghana. So, when it gets to that point, you know you're doing something right. So, I'm usually that's one of the highs for me when I think of the Nigeria team, because everybody is scared about Nigeria, and it is a scary country.
It is. No, it is. If even Twitter avoided Nigeria and chose Ghana, it's scary,
It's a very scary country.
It's scary,
It's a very
quote unquote.
scary country. From the airport right down to driving through the streets, and it is scary. I don't literally when I go to Nigeria and I'm saying I'm going to malls and other things, my staff are even watching me. They're like, "You're not scared," and I'm like, well, I will be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, but somehow I look at that one and I'm very happy.
Okay. There's one thing you said that I want to learn a bit more about. You said when you were 20, you were worried about competition, but now that you're 60, you are not. You don't. And I find that very counterintuitive. How is it that once you got bigger, you don't really care about competition? But when
I don't care about smaller mushroom competition. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay.
Like, I'm not scared about a small company springing up doing what I'm doing. It's the least of my worries. My worry right now is how to add value to what I'm doing for my customers. My worry is how to ensure that I retain staff, because staff get tied to some companies and the companies want to deal with these particular staff. So if you have a big shot trying to take your staff, there's a problem. Those are my worries, not necessarily a company springing up with a team of 10. No, I would rather even give them business, honestly.
For me, that is very strange, because if academically, being from the scholars will say when the team is smaller, 20-man team, you know everybody, you can interact with them, you can see them, so you get involved in their maybe keeping them. But for you, as you've gotten bigger, that's when you are really more concerned about staff retention. When you are smaller, you care about competition. But when you get bigger, you still will care about competition. But it's interesting how you've segregated the competition you worry about and the ones that you don't worry about. Because they would say the startups are the ones that you have to be afraid of, because they're the ones that can surprise you. So as you've gotten bigger, for how you segment competition to worry about and what not to worry about, what logic do you use in?
I'll give you an example. I don't think MTN will be worried if another company comes to that.
Okay.
And starts a telco business.
Right.
I don't think they'll be worried.
Okay.
Would they?
Well, I think they have economies of scale, so they are so huge that you can't.
So in my arena, this is what I'm going to.
So you're bossing your industry so much you don't worry about.
I don't really worry about that.
So how do you sift through the competition to decide this one I worry about them? Is it the size of the organization?
Well, for me, I have a system where I actually want the competition. I bring the competition closer, even the small ones who start. Once you come close to me, I'll support you. Because I was once there, so I know how it feels like. And I know that if I support you, we'll grow together. When you grow and something even happens, there's healthy competition. We can agree to disagree on something, but still do it in a way that there's a lot of peace and some form of unity. I wouldn't feel the pinch. There are some people that even when I go on a tender and I meet them there, I step back. Not because I no longer participate in the tender. I'll rather support them, and then I expect that same thing when it happens. There are some we collaborate. So that's my way of doing business. So when you come in and you want to be aggressive with me, honestly, I'm not going to give you that energy back or anything. I'll leave you. So generally, people understand how people work in the market. It's a small world. So when people come to me, generally, this is how they come. I tend to have one or two ones here who would want to compete, but I don't do that. I won't encourage it.
You've grown from 20, a team of 20 to a team of 60. How have you funded that growth?
My staff run the business. So what they generate runs the business. What I generate grows the business.
How do you find the right talent? Because the labor market in Ghana is not so great.
So within COVID, because we were working so hard on the brain of the company, we really yielded a lot of results.